I stood in front of Ryan Thompson's office, holding the house purchase contract I had just collected from the management office. On the contract, the buyer's name was clearly written, Ryan Thompson, and the address, Jade Lake Villas, Building A, Unit 302. I had seen that house before. Last month, Ryan's assistant, Emily White, posted a picture of it on her social media with the caption, "The house of my dreams." Back then, I had even foolishly given it a like. "Miss Lewis, Mr. Thompson is in a meeting right now. Would you like to wait inside?" the receptionist asked softly. I shook my head, turned around, and left. Back in my car, I opened the contract again. $200,000 paid in full. When did Ryan have that much cash? We were about to get married. Why did he buy a house without telling me? My phone rang. It was Ryan. "Hey Claire, I have dinner with a client tonight. Go ahead and eat without me, okay?" "What client?" I asked. "The investor I mentioned before. It's an important one. I might get home late." I looked down at the contract in my hands and said quietly, "All right, just focus on your work." After hanging up, I drove straight to Jade Lake Villas. The neighborhood was peaceful, and Villa AO2 was right by the lake, warm and beautifully decorated. Through the window, I could see the inside, completely furnished in the minimalist style that Emily White loved. I sat in my car for 2 hours. Ryan never showed up, but Emily did. She was carrying a bag of household items and unlocked the door with practiced ease. On her keychain hung a small rabbit charm, exactly like the one she always used. My heart went completely cold. At 11 that night, Ryan came home. I was sitting in the living room waiting for him. The house contract lay on the coffee table. "Claire, why are you still awake?" he asked, looking exhausted, his tie hanging loosely around his neck. "What's this?" I pointed at the contract. Ryan froze for a second, then walked over, picked it up, and frowned. "How did you get this?" "That's what you care about," I said coldly. "The point isn't how I got it, it's why you bought a house without telling me." He sat down across from me and rubbed his temples. "Claire, that house is just an investment. I was planning to surprise you." "An investment?" I gave a bitter laugh. "This afternoon, Emily White used a key to get into that house. Is she part of your investment too?" Ryan's expression changed instantly. "You followed me?" "Followed you?" "Ryan, you bought that house using our joint assets. I went to see it myself. Is there a problem with that?" 3 years ago, when we started the company together, I invested $5 million, and he invested $1 million. Now the company was valued at $300 million. I held 60% of the shares, and he held 40%. By that math, 10% of that $3.2 million house, $920,000, was mine. "Claire, listen to me," he said. "Emily's just helping me take care of the place." "Take care of it?" I sneered. "Then explain why she has the keys. Explain why you spent over $3 million without telling me. Or maybe explain why the house is decorated exactly the way she likes it." Ryan went silent. I stood up. "I'm tired. Let's end this for tonight." "Claire." He reached out and grabbed my hand. "We're getting married soon. Don't overthink this." I pulled my hand away. "I'm not overthinking, I just want the truth." When I got back to the bedroom, I lay awake on the bed, unable to sleep. I kept thinking about the panic in Ryan's eyes earlier. The way Emily had easily opened that door, and her post, "The house of my dreams." No, none of this could be a coincidence. I picked up my phone and texted Mark Chen, a private investigator I often worked with. "Help me investigate Ryan Thompson's activities over the past 3 months. He replied almost immediately. "Miss Lewis, how detailed do you want the investigation to be?" "The more detailed, the better," I told him. After sending the message and handling everything that needed to be done, I strangely felt calmer. Some things, if I didn't get to the bottom of them, I simply couldn't sleep. The next morning, Ryan got up very early. I heard him moving around in the kitchen. Normally, the housekeeper would prepare breakfast, but she was off that day. I washed my face, brushed my hair, and went downstairs. On the dining table were steamed dumplings and soy milk, my favorites. "Claire, about yesterday," Ryan spoke first, his tone soft. "I was wrong. I should have discussed it with you first." I nodded and sat down to eat. "That house," he continued, "I'll have the agent put it up for sale this afternoon." I looked up at him. "Sell it? Didn't you say it was an investment?" He met my eyes and said calmly, "If it's something you don't like, then forget it." That answer only made me more certain. that house was never meant to be an investment. After breakfast, we both left for work. In the elevator, Ryan asked, "Claire, how about we go try on wedding dresses this weekend?" "Sure," I replied flatly. When the elevator reached the basement, we each got into our own car and drove to the company. Sitting in my car, I couldn't help thinking back to 3 years ago, when we started our business together. Back then, Ryan's world revolved around work and me. He could stay up past midnight for a project, and he could still remember to plan a surprise for my birthday. When did things start to change? Was it when Emily White joined the company? Emily was 23, a graduate of a prestigious university. She had a clean, sweet look, came from an ordinary family, and had been with the company for just 6 months. She went from a regular employee to becoming Ryan's assistant. At first, I didn't pay much attention. After all, the company needed talented people. But later, I realized Ryan's concern for her went far beyond that of a normal boss. For example, when she got sick and took time off, Ryan personally brought her medicine. When she worked late, he was the one who drove her home. And at company dinners, he always sat next to her. I had brought it up to him several times, but Ryan always said I was overthinking, that Emily was still young, and he was just looking out for her. Now, thinking back, I finally understood what kind of concern that was. At lunchtime, I got a call from Mark Chen. "Miss Lewis," he said, "the materials you requested are ready. Would you like to meet and go over them?" "Sure. Same place as always," I replied. The same place was a quiet cafe where Mark and I often met. He was the company's legal consultant, and sometimes I asked him to look into certain matters for me. Mark was in his early 40s, steady and reliable. When I arrived, he handed me a thick envelope. "Miss Lewis, everything from the past 3 months is in here." I opened it. Inside were photos, time logs, and spending records. The first photo, Ryan and Emily having dinner at an upscale restaurant, sitting very close together. The second, the two of them entering the villa at Jade Lake. The third, Ryan driving Emily home, waiting in his car downstairs for an entire hour. According to the time logs, over the past 3 months, Ryan had met privately with Emily almost every week, 3 to 4 times each month. The spending records were even more shocking. A Chanel bag, $12,000. A Tiffany necklace, $8,000. A Hermes silk scarf, $3,000. And a variety of cosmetics, clothes, and shoes, total expenses of $56,000. During that same period, Ryan told me he was short on cash and asked me to transfer $30,000 from my personal account into the company. I actually did it without hesitation. "Miss Lewis," Mark said quietly, "there's one more thing. Yesterday, I followed them to Jade Lake Villas. They stayed inside for 3 hours. 3 hours. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. "Thank you, Mark." "Would you like me to keep following them?" he asked. "No need," I said, my voice steady. "This is enough." Then I went back to the company. I sat in my office, staring at the photos spread out on the desk. In one of them, Ryan Thompson was smiling, that gentle smile I hadn't seen in a very long time. For months now, even when he was at home, his mind was somewhere else. His phone was always in his hand. Sometimes he would wake up in the middle of the night just to send messages. When I asked what he was busy with, he always said it was work. So, this was the kind of work he meant. A knock came at the door. It was my assistant, Lily Chen. "Miss Lewis, the afternoon meeting has been postponed by half an hour," she said. "Mr. Thompson has something urgent." "What kind of urgent matter?" I asked. Apparently his assistant, Emily, isn't feeling well. "Mr. Thompson took her to the hospital." I nodded. "Got it." After Lily left, I turned on my computer and logged into the company's financial system. As the largest shareholder, I had full access to the company's financial records. Sure enough, over the past 3 months, there had been several large expenditures, all approved by Ryan. One of them was for exactly $3,200,000, dated around the same time he purchased the villa at Jade Lake. So, the house had been bought with company money. I kept checking and found a number of smaller expenses as well. When totaled, they came to $56,000, the exact figure Mark Chen had reported. Ryan Thompson had used company funds to buy that villa and shower Emily White with expensive gifts, then turned around and told me he was short on cash, asking me to transfer money from my personal account to the company. Was this the man who was supposed to be my future husband? I shut down my computer, grabbed my handbag, and got up to leave. Passing by Ryan's office, I saw it was empty. Remembering what Lily had said, I knew he was likely at the hospital with Emily. Was Emily really sick, or was that just another excuse? My mind went back to the photos of them together, the cozy decoration of the house, the expensive gifts. Without me even realizing it, they had been living like a real couple. Then what was I? A prop? A placeholder? My phone buzzed. A WeChat message from Ryan popped up. Claire, I might be home late tonight. Emily got food poisoning. I'm at the hospital with her. Food poisoning. I let out a cold laugh and typed back, take good care of her. After hitting send, I left the office and got into my car. On the drive home, my mind was a storm of thoughts. 3 years ago, when we founded the company together, Ryan had said, Claire, let's work hard and build an empire that belongs to the two of us. Back then, there was light in his eyes, dreams, ambition, and love for me. Now that same man looked at Emily White the way he used to look at me. I had become nothing more than a tool for him to fulfill his ambitions. When I got home, I sat on the sofa and took out the photos, looking at each one carefully. Every photo felt like a knife stabbing into my chest. The worst pain wasn't the betrayal itself. It was realizing I had been blind for so long, still foolishly preparing for our wedding. Our wedding was scheduled for next month. The venue was booked. The dress was being custom made. The invitations had been sent. Everyone knew that Ryan Thompson was marrying Claire Lewis, including Emily White. She knew he had a fiancée, yet she still chose to stay by his side. She accepted his gifts, lived in that house with him, played the role of his lover. And Ryan? One hand preparing a wedding with me, the other holding on to his mistress in secret. What was his plan after the wedding? To keep living a double life until the right moment came, and then divorce me to be with her openly? The more I thought about it, the angrier I became, but also the clearer everything seemed. A man like that didn't deserve my love. And a marriage like this, one that hadn't even begun, was already meant to end. At 11 that night, Ryan Thompson came home. I didn't ask how Emily White was doing, and he didn't bring it up either. We each went about our own routines, washing up, getting ready for bed, as if nothing had happened. But I knew. Things between us would never be the same again. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Ryan was still asleep. I went downstairs quietly, made myself a cup of coffee, and sat in the living room, thinking things through. I had 2 options now. 1, expose everything, confront him, and see which side he chose. 2, pretend I knew nothing, at least for the moment, and quietly prepare myself. I chose the second option. I knew Ryan too well. If I confronted him now, he'd have 1,000 excuses ready. He'd explain, apologize, promise to change, and try to coax me into forgiving him. And then what? He'd just become more careful, better at hiding things, and I'd still have nothing. What I needed wasn't his explanation or his promises. What I needed was control. I picked up my phone and sent a message to Linda Wang, a lawyer friend of mine. Linda, are you free? I'd like to ask you a few legal questions. She replied almost immediately. Of course, whenever you're available. This afternoon, at the usual place? I suggested. Perfect. Then I called Mr. Zhang, the company's chief financial officer. Let's have a meeting this afternoon, I said. I want an overview of the company's recent financial situation. Yes, Miss Lewis, he replied. I'll prepare all the documents. After setting everything up, I felt a bit calmer. When Ryan finally woke up, I was in the kitchen making breakfast. Claire, you're up early today, he said, walking over from behind and wrapping his arms around me. Before, that kind of embrace would have made my heart race. Now it only made my skin crawl. I couldn't sleep, I said, pulling away from him. How's Emily? Nothing serious, he said casually. The doctor said she just needs a few days of rest. That's good, I replied coolly. Breakfast is ready, let's eat. During breakfast, Ryan brought up the wedding. Claire, the planner said we need to confirm the final arrangements next week. Will you be free? I'll make time, I said, continuing to eat my dumplings. By the way, he added, I was thinking, how should we organize the wedding? The best way possible, of course, I said lightly. He smiled warmly. Exactly. I want to give you a perfect wedding, Claire. The way he looked at me was so tender, as if he actually meant it. A perfect wedding? How could it be perfect when he was spending money on another woman? A man who cheats, how could marrying him ever be perfect? But I smiled faintly. All right, I'll trust your judgment. That afternoon, I met Linda Wang. She was my college friend, now a senior partner at a top law firm specializing in divorce and family disputes. Claire, you don't look so good, she said the moment she saw me. What happened? I handed her the documents Mark Chen had given me. As she looked through them, her expression darkened. Ryan Thompson, huh? This is too much, she said, clearly angry. You're not even married yet, and he's already like this. Imagine what he'll be like afterward. That's why I wanted to ask, I said quietly. If I end things with him, how will the assets be divided? Linda took out a notepad and began to explain. First of all, you two aren't legally married yet, so this doesn't count as marital property. However, you co-own a company, which means the division will depend on your shareholdings. You currently hold 60%. If the company is valued at $300 million, you'll be entitled to $180 million. She looked up. But if you can prove that Ryan used company funds for personal expenses, like buying a house or gifts for a third party, you can demand compensation. Also, she added, you originally invested $5 million into the company. If there's a written agreement from that time, you can request full reimbursement. I nodded. What should I prepare? As much evidence as you can, she said firmly. Financial statements, transfer records, expense invoices, photos, voice recordings, anything you can collect. The more, the better. She paused before continuing. And one more thing, protect your personal assets. If he finds out you know about his affair, he might try to transfer or hide company funds. I listened carefully, taking in every word. I kept every key point in mind. Claire, have you really decided to end things? Linda Wang asked gently. Yeah, I nodded firmly. A man like that isn't worth giving my life to. Then I support you, she said. A man that's selfish and deceitful needs to face the consequences. Leaving the law office, I went straight back to the company to meet with the finance department. Mr. Zhang, our CFO, had already prepared all the documents. Miss Lewis, here's the company's financial report for the past year, he said as he handed me the files. I carefully went through every page, highlighting each suspicious expense. Mr. Zhang, this $3.2 million expense, what was it for? He checked the records. That one was signed off by Mr. Thompson. It's listed as a real estate investment. Is there an investment analysis report attached? It doesn't look like it. He hesitated. Mr. Thompson said it was a personal project he was handling himself. A personal project using company funds? I asked coldly. And what about these smaller transactions? I pointed to several entries in the tens of thousands, all signed by Mr. Thompson as well. Some were marked as client entertainment, Mr. Zhang explained nervously. Some as office supplies and some as employee benefits. I let out a cold laugh. So tell me, the designer handbags and jewelry he bought for Emily White, which category do those fall under? Mr. Zhang froze, clearly uncomfortable. Starting tomorrow, I said firmly, every company expense exceeding $10,000 must be approved by me personally. Understood? Yes, Miss Lewis. And one more thing, compile a complete breakdown of all company expenses from the past year. I want to review them thoroughly. Understood, he said quickly. After the meeting ended, I stayed in my office, staring out at the night view through the window. Across from me, in his own office, Ryan Thompson was still working. What exactly was he so busy with? Work? Or texting Emily again? My mind drifted back to the photos, his gentle smile, the gifts he'd bought her, the $3.2 million house. Once, I truly believed we were the most important people in each other's lives. But now I knew the truth. I had only been a tool, someone who helped him build his empire. And Emily White? She was the one he truly wanted to protect. If that's how it was, then so be it. Let them have each other. But I wasn't going to let them find happiness easily. Betrayal always comes with a price. The next morning, I received an unexpected call. Hello, is this Claire Lewis? A soft voice asked. Yes, speaking. This is Emily White. Emily White, she had called me herself. Hello, I said calmly. What can I do for you? Miss Lewis, she said hesitantly, her tone tight, I'd like to meet with you. There are some things I want to talk about privately. What kind of things? It's about me and Mr. Thompson. Was she planning to confess? When? I asked. Today at noon, at the cafe across from the company. All right, I said and hung up. Curiosity stirred inside me. Why was Emily reaching out to me first? Did Ryan tell her to, or was this her own idea? At noon, I arrived at the cafe on time. Emily was already there, waiting. She looked pale and exhausted, the skin under her eyes swollen and red, as if she'd been crying. "Miss Lewis, thank you for agreeing to meet with me," she said quickly, standing up a little awkwardly. I sat down and ordered a coffee. "Go ahead. What is it you want to say?" Emily bit her lip nervously. "Miss Lewis, I think you might have already found out about some things." "What things?" I asked, pretending not to know. "About me and Mr. Thompson," she whispered after a pause. We really do have an improper relationship. A confession." I raised an eyebrow. "Improper in what way?" She lowered her gaze. "We're together." She looked up again, tears glistening in her eyes. "I know it's wrong, but I couldn't control myself." I leaned back slightly. "And what about Ryan Thompson? Couldn't he control himself either?" Emily looked at me, her eyes shimmering with guilt and tears. "Miss Lewis, please don't blame him," Emily White said, her voice trembling. "It was all my fault. I was the one who seduced him." "Oh," I raised an eyebrow, pretending to be curious. "Seduced him how?" Emily's face flushed bright red. I used to find excuses to be alone with him. I'd pretend to work late so he would drive me home. Sometimes I'd act spoiled and ask him to buy me things." "And then what?" I pressed. "One night I got him to take me home after I'd been drinking. I pretended to be drunk and I kissed him first." I leaned forward slightly. "And did he push you away?" Emily shook her head. "No, he kissed me back." "What happened after that?" She lowered her head, her voice barely audible. "After that, we started seeing each other." I let out a soft, humorless laugh. "I see." "Miss Lewis, I really love him," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "I know this is unfair to you, but I can't let him go." "Love him?" I repeated coldly. "And what about the house at Jade Lake? Was that also out of love?" Her eyes widened in shock. You know about that." "Not just that." I took out my phone and showed her the photos Mark Chen had taken, pictures of her and Ryan together, the dinners, the villa, the late-night meetings. "Care to explain these?" The moment she saw the photos, Emily's face turned ghostly pale. "Miss Lewis, I also have these." I handed her a printed list of the expenses, the handbags, the jewelry, the luxury gifts. As soon as she saw the numbers, tears spilled down her cheeks. "Miss Lewis, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me," she sobbed. "I know what I did was wrong, but I really love him." "You love him," I said, my tone sharp. "So you think that gives you the right to destroy someone else's relationship?" "No, it's not like that," she cried. "Please let me explain." "Go ahead," I said coldly. "Mr. Thompson told me that things between you two had already faded," she stammered. "He said you were only staying together because of the company." That made me pause for a second. "He said that?" Emily nodded timidly. "He told me that you and he were more like business partners now than lovers. That he wanted something real love, not a relationship built on mutual benefit." Ah, so that was the story Ryan had told her. In his version, our relationship was already over long ago. I wasn't his fiancée, I was just his business partner. And sleeping with another woman wasn't betrayal, it was him pursuing true love. And Emily White, she was the angel who came to save his empty life. "So now you and Ryan are true love?" I said with a bitter laugh. "And I'm just the villain standing in your way?" "No, that's not what I meant, Miss Lewis," she said quickly, shaking her head in panic. "I never thought of it like that. I just love him too much." "Then what did you come here for today?" I asked flatly. "To ask me to give him up?" Emily's eyes filled with both hope and fear. "Miss Lewis, if possible, I hope you could let him go," she said in a trembling voice. "I'll take good care of him. I'll make him happy." "Happy?" I repeated, my lips curling into a cold smile. "You want me to let him go so you can live happily ever after with him?" "Miss Lewis, I know it's a selfish request, but..." "But what?" I interrupted. "Because you love him, I'm supposed to hand him over to you?" Emily lowered her head, unable to meet my eyes. I stood up slowly. "Emily," I said, my voice sharp and steady, "do you realize that every word you've said makes me sick? You talk about love while doing the work of a homewrecker, and now you want me to just step aside so you two can be happy? Do you really think that's reasonable?" Her shoulders trembled and she said nothing. "You said Ryan told you that his feelings for me had faded," I continued. "Then tell me, if that's true, why hasn't he left me? Then why did he choose to cheat on me? I asked. Emily White lifted her head, confusion flashing in her tear-filled eyes. Because he couldn't bear to give up my money, I said coldly. Without me, Ryan Thompson would be nothing. That's not true, Miss Lewis, Emily protested quickly. Mr. Thompson isn't that kind of person. Isn't he? I let out a humorless laugh. Then why did he use company funds to buy you a house? Why did he use company money to buy you gifts? Why is he planning a wedding with me while living with you at the same time? Emily's lips trembled, but she couldn't say a word. You're too naive, Emily. I grabbed my bag and stood up. You think what you have with him is love, but you're just a toy. The moment he gets bored or finds someone younger and prettier, do you really think he'll still want you? I didn't wait for her response. I turned and walked out of the cafe without looking back. On my way back, I replayed what she had said. Ryan had told her that his feelings for me had faded, that we were only together because of the company. So, in his heart, I had become someone dispensable, someone who could stay or go, and it wouldn't make a difference. Then why was I still holding on to this relationship? When I arrived at the office, I went straight to Ryan's office. He was reading through some documents. As soon as he saw me, he smiled. Claire, have you eaten? No, I said calmly, sitting down across from him. Ryan, I want to ask you something. He looked up. What is it? What do you think about our relationship? Ryan froze slightly. Why are you asking that all of a sudden? I just want to hear what you really think. He put the documents down and looked at me seriously. Claire, we've been together for years. Of course, our relationship is good. We're getting married soon, and I really look forward to our future together. Really? I smiled faintly. Have you ever thought that maybe we're more like business partners than lovers now? His expression changed instantly. Why would you think that? Because that's exactly what you think, isn't it? I said, staring straight into his eyes. You told someone that our feelings have faded, that we're only together because of the company. Who told you that? He asked sharply, his tone tightening. Does it matter? I said. What matters is that it's true, isn't it? Ryan was silent for a long moment before finally saying, Claire, it's true things aren't as passionate as before, but that doesn't mean I don't love you. Then tell me, I said steadily. What exactly do you love about me? He hesitated for a moment, as if choosing his words. I love your intelligence, your capability, and my money. I cut him off coldly. Claire, don't say that, he snapped, raising his voice. I'm not that kind of man. No, I leaned forward, my tone icy. Then explain this. I slammed the house purchase contract onto his desk. The moment Ryan saw it, his face went pale. And this too, I said, laying down the list of expenses right next to it. Every single transaction, every cent you spent on her. He looked at the documents, realizing everything had been exposed. Claire, please, let me explain. Explain what? I demanded. Explain why you used company funds to buy a house for your mistress? Explain why you used company money to shower her with gifts? Or maybe explain how you can plan a wedding with me while living with her? Ryan opened his mouth, but no words came out. Emily came to see me today, I continued coldly. She told me that you two are in love, and that she hopes I'll step aside so you can be together. What? Ryan shot up from his chair, eyes wide in disbelief. She came to you? Why would she do that? Why not? I said, my voice sharp. Or was that part of your little plan? To see how I'd react? No, Claire, I swear, I didn't tell her to do that, he said quickly, panic creeping into his voice. This has nothing to do with her. It's all my fault. Nothing to do with her? I let out a cold laugh. Ryan froze, his face stiff and pale. Even now, you're still trying to protect her? I said sharply. Claire? Ryan Thompson pleaded. I admit I was wrong, but please don't make things hard for Emily. She's innocent. Innocent? I cut him off, my tone cold as ice. Ryan, do you realize that every word you say right now only strengthens my reason to end this? The moment he heard the words end this, his expression changed completely. Claire, don't, he said quickly. Please don't end things. I'll cut ties with Emily, I swear. We can start over. Start over? I stood up, staring at him in disbelief. Do you really think that's possible? Yes, he said desperately. We've been together for so many years, Claire. We're getting married soon. We can't throw everything away because of one mistake. One mistake? I pointed at the pile of evidence spread across his desk, the contracts, the receipts, the photos. Are all of these just mistakes to you? Yes, he said without hesitation. It's all my fault. I can fix it. He stepped forward, reaching for my hand, but I pulled away. Ryan, I said with a bitter laugh. Do you know what's most ridiculous about this? He looked at me warily. What? You cheat on me, spend millions in company funds to support your mistress, and now you want me to forgive you? To marry you like nothing ever happened? Claire, what? I snapped. You think I can't live without you? Or do you think you're that important? He went silent, my words cutting him deeper than he expected. Let me make this clear, Ryan, I said, my voice calm but firm. Anyone in this world can betray me, but I will never betray myself. And I will never marry a man who cheats, let alone spend the rest of my life with someone who used my money to keep another woman. Without another word, I turned and walked toward the door. Claire. Wait, he called after me. If you're really determined to end this, then what about the company? I stopped and looked back at him, a cold smile forming on my lips. Of course, the company. That's what you care about most, isn't it? No, he said quickly, his face tense. That's not it. I'm worried about our future. Our future? I scoffed. We don't have one anymore. As for the company, we'll divide it according to our shares. Claire, we built this company together, he said urgently. You can't. Can't what? I interrupted. Can't reclaim what's mine? He stared at me, speechless. Don't forget, I continued coldly. I invested $5 million and hold 60% of the shares. By right, I control the company. For years, I let you act as CEO because I trusted you, because I loved you. But now you've betrayed me, and you've betrayed the company. Ryan's face turned pale. Claire, what are you going to do? What I'm going to do is simple. I smiled faintly. I want you to pay. Pay? He repeated, his voice shaking. Pay for what? For embezzling company funds, and for betraying me. I turned and walked out of his office. As I walked down the hallway, I could feel the eyes of the employees on me. Our voices earlier hadn't been quiet. They must have heard everything. But I didn't care. Sooner or later, everyone would know. Back in my office, I picked up the phone and called Linda Wong. Linda, I said steadily, you can start now. Understood, she replied. I'll prepare the lawsuit immediately. After hanging up, I looked out the window. The afternoon sun was shining brightly, and for the first time in a long while, I felt light, almost hopeful. That very afternoon, Ryan Thompson received a letter from my lawyer. The contents were clear. A lawsuit for embezzlement of company funds, demanding compensation for damages and full legal accountability. At the same time, I sent out a company-wide email explaining the situation and officially announcing the temporary suspension of Ryan Thompson's position as CEO. The news spread like wildfire. The entire company was in shock. No one had expected that the couple who once seemed the happiest in the office would end up facing each other in court. No one could believe that a man as polite and composed as Ryan Thompson had been secretly misusing company money. That same afternoon, Emily White submitted her resignation and didn't return to work the next day. Ryan tried to contact me several times afterward, hoping to reconcile, but I refused every time. Claire, do we really have to go this far? He asked one morning, blocking me at the office door. I stopped and looked at him coolly. Go this far? Ryan, you were the one who crossed the line first, not me. I know I was wrong, he said, almost pleading. But can't we settle this privately? Why take it to court? Because, I said firmly, meeting his eyes, I want everyone to see the price of betrayal. Claire, what's the point of all this? Ryan Thompson said through clenched teeth. You're only hurting yourself. The company's reputation will take a hit, the stock price will drop, and in the end, you'll be the one who suffers. I laughed coldly. Ryan, do you really think I still care about any of that? Money can be earned again. Reputation can be rebuilt. But once self-respect is gone, it's gone forever, and I will never let anyone trample on my self-respect, not even you. He stared at me, a mix of shock and fear in his eyes. Maybe it was the first time he realized I wasn't the weak, gullible woman he could manipulate anymore. If you insist on doing this, he said finally, then I won't just sit back and wait for you to destroy me. Oh, I tilted my head, almost amused. And what exactly are you planning to do? The company was founded by both of us, he said stiffly. I have a voice too. I can rally the other shareholders to re-elect the board. I smiled faintly. Go ahead and try. But let me remind you, the total shares of all other shareholders combined are only 40%. I alone hold 60. If you're not good at math, Ryan, I can always teach you again. His expression darkened. And one more thing, I continued. You're already a defendant, accused of embezzling company funds. Do you really think the other shareholders will side with someone under financial investigation? He clenched his fists, speechless with anger. What's wrong? I said coolly. Run out of arguments? I gave him a cold smile. This is the price of the so-called true love you chose. Because of Emily White, you've lost the company and your future. Was she worth it? Ryan didn't answer. He was silent for a long time before finally whispering, Claire, can we really not reconcile? Of course we can, I said calmly. His eyes flickered with hope, until I added, as long as you do 3 things. He straightened. What 3 things? First, repay every cent of the money you embezzled, including interest. Second, transfer all of your company shares to me at half the market value. Third, issue a public apology admitting your wrongdoing. As soon as I finished, Ryan's face turned as dark as thunder. Claire, you're asking me to walk away with nothing. You already have nothing, I replied coldly. Without me, you're no one. Claire, I cut him off sharply. Don't forget, Ryan, you're the one who betrayed me first. Paying the price for it is only fair. If you can't accept my terms, then I'll see you in court. And when that happens, you won't just be paying compensation, you might also face criminal charges. I turned and walked away without hesitation. That night, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. Hello? Miss Lewis, this is Emily White. I frowned, surprised. How did you get my private number? Mr. Thompson gave it to me, she said quietly. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. Miss Lewis, I'd like to meet you again. We've already met once, I said flatly. I know, she said, sounding anxious. But there's something important I need to tell you, something about Mr. Thompson. It's not something I can say over the phone. I hesitated for a moment, then said, All right, tomorrow at 2 p.m., same place. After hanging up, I felt a flicker of curiosity. What did Emily want this time? Was she planning to plead for Ryan, or did she have something else up her sleeve? The next afternoon, I arrived at the cafe on time. Emily was already there, waiting. She looked even more haggard than before, pale, her eyes swollen and red. Miss Lewis, thank you for agreeing to meet me, she said, standing up and bowing slightly. I sat down. Let's skip the formalities. What do you want to say? Emily bit her lip nervously. Miss Lewis, I want to tell you something about Mr. Thompson. What about him? I asked. The truth is, she said, her voice trembling, that house. It wasn't something he bought for me willingly. Her words caught me off guard. I frowned. What do you mean by that? I mean, she whispered, lowering her head, I forced him to buy it. Emily White lowered her head, her voice trembling. I took some photos and videos of us together, she said softly. I threatened him. I told him if he didn't buy me that house, I would send everything to you. Her confession stunned me. I hadn't expected that at all. You threatened him? Emily nodded slightly. I know it was despicable, but I loved him too much. I wanted us to have a place of our own, somewhere that belonged just to the 2 of us. I needed a sense of security, even some of the gifts. I asked for them. I told him that if he truly loved me, he'd buy me those things. Her voice grew smaller with every word. So what you're saying, I said slowly, is that you were blackmailing him? Tears filled her eyes. I didn't mean it like that. I just wanted him to treat me better. I know I was wrong, Miss Lewis. I really do. But I loved him. I looked at her, a storm of mixed emotions swirling inside me. On one hand, my anger toward Ryan Thompson hadn't faded in the slightest. Cheating was cheating, whether he was seduced or coerced. On the other hand, I finally understood why he kept saying everything was his fault, why he begged me not to go after Emily. So that was it. He really was trying to protect her. Emily? I said evenly. Why are you telling me all this now? She looked up at me, her eyes full of desperation. I'm hoping you can forgive Mr. Thompson, she said softly. It was all my fault. If you need someone to blame, blame me. But please, forgive him. I let out a cold laugh. Emily, do you really think taking the blame for him makes him innocent? But what? I cut her off. He's an adult. He can make his own decisions. Even if you did threaten him, he could have refused. He could have told me the truth, but he didn't. He chose to give in to you. He chose to use company money to meet your demands. Do you know what that means? It means that in his eyes, I was worth nothing. Emily opened her mouth as if to say something, but no words came out. Thank you for telling me the truth, I said, standing up. But it doesn't change anything. Miss Lewis, Ryan Thompson made his choice, I interrupted. Now it's my turn to make mine, and I choose to hold him accountable. I left the cafe without looking back. A week later, the court hearing began. The case had become a sensation in the business world, with several media outlets closely following the story. Outside the courthouse, a crowd of reporters had already gathered. I wore a black suit and walked into the courtroom alongside Linda Wang. Ryan Thompson and his attorney were already there. He looked exhausted, defeated, his eyes filled with guilt and helplessness. Emily White wasn't present. I'd heard she had left the city. The hearing started. Linda presented all the evidence one by one. The financial records clearly showed that Ryan had embezzled company funds, a total of $3.856 million, including $3.2 million used to buy real estate and $656,000 spent on personal expenses. Faced with such overwhelming proof, Ryan's lawyer couldn't deny the charges. All he could do was plead for leniency. Your Honor, he said, my client admits to using company funds, but there was no intent to misappropriate. It was a result of extraordinary personal circumstances. Extraordinary circumstances? Linda countered immediately. The so-called extraordinary circumstances, as the defense claims, are the direct result of the defendant's affair and subsequent blackmail by a third party. That cannot justify the illegal use of company assets. On the contrary, it only further demonstrates his moral failure. As the company's CEO, the defendant had a legal and ethical duty to safeguard corporate property. His actions were a serious violation of both corporate law and criminal law. After several hours of testimony and argument, the judge finally announced a recess. The verdict would be delivered on a later date. As I exited the courtroom, I heard hurried footsteps behind me. Claire, Ryan called out, please, can we talk? I stopped walking and turned to face Ryan Thompson. What else is there left to say? He hesitated before finally whispering, I'll accept your terms. I'll transfer all my shares to you, and I'll issue a public apology. It's too late for that now, I replied coldly. His voice trembled. But didn't you say that if I agreed to your conditions, we could reconcile? That was a week ago, I said flatly. Now that it's gone to court, it's no longer something I can simply decide on my own. Claire, please, he said, his tone almost breaking. I really do know I was wrong. It was the first time Ryan had ever lowered his head to me. I'll give you everything, he said desperately. Just forgive me, please, one last chance. Looking at his defeated, pitiful face, I didn't feel any satisfaction, only exhaustion, and a hollow, endless sense of disappointment. Ryan, I said quietly, if you'd been honest with me from the start, if you'd chosen to face me with the truth, maybe we still would have had a chance. But you didn't. You chose to lie, to cheat, to betray, and now you want forgiveness? Not because you truly regret it, but because you're terrified of losing everything. A sorry like that means nothing. His face turned as pale as paper. Claire, we're done, I interrupted firmly. Ryan, the moment you betrayed me, it was already over. I turned and walked away, without looking back. 3 days later, the court announced its verdict. Ryan Thompson was sentenced to 3 years in prison, suspended for 5 years, for embezzlement of company assets. He was also ordered to repay $3.856 million to the company, including accrued interest. In addition, the court froze all his personal assets, including his shares in the company. That meant Ryan not only lost his freedom but everything he owned. When the judgment was read, I felt no joy, no triumph, just a quiet relief, as if a heavy burden had finally been lifted from my chest. That night, I was home alone. I opened a bottle of red wine, the one Ryan had brought back from France last year. He said we'd open it on our wedding day. Instead, I drank it alone. When I finished the last glass, I picked up my phone and deleted every photo, every memory of him. 3 years of love ended like that. It wasn't the ending I once hoped for, but at least I had reclaimed justice for myself. The next morning, I called for an all-staff meeting. My dear colleagues, I began, standing at the front of the conference room, facing everyone. I'm sure by now, you all know what has happened. Starting today, I will officially assume the position of CEO, taking full responsibility for the company's operations. As for the former CEO, let his mistakes serve as a lesson to us all. In business, integrity comes first. In work, only real ability matters. Our company will keep moving forward, our goals remain firm, and our ideals will never fade. A wave of applause broke out across the room. After the meeting, Mr. Zhang, the chief financial officer, came to see me. "Miss Lewis," he said, "there's something I need to report." "What is it?" "After Mr. Thompson's assets were frozen, we completed an audit and found that he had concealed additional funds." I frowned. "What kind of assets?" "Overseas investments, approximately $5 million US, Mr. Zhang said carefully. "When were these transfers made?" I asked. "According to the records, right after you filed the lawsuit against him." "In other words," I said slowly, "even after I sued him, Ryan was still secretly moving money." "Yes," he confirmed. "Gather all the evidence," I instructed. "Send everything to my lawyer." "Yes, Miss Lewis." When he left, I stood by the window, looking out at the city below. So even to the very end, Ryan was still calculating, begging me for forgiveness on one side, while quietly shifting assets on the other. A man like that, I thought, truly didn't deserve even an ounce of sympathy. A month later, the company had gradually returned to normal operations. Without Ryan Thompson, our productivity actually increased. I had reorganized the management team, promoted several capable employees, and the atmosphere in the office felt more harmonious than ever. That afternoon, my assistant Lily knocked on my door. "Miss Lewis, you have a visitor," she said softly. "Who is it?" "It's Mr. Thompson's mother." "Mrs. Thompson?" I hesitated for a moment, then said, "Let her in." Thompson entered my office looking much older than I remembered. Since Ryan's scandal, she had been running herself ragged, trying to help him and pleading for leniency on his behalf. "Claire," she said weakly as she sat down across from me, "I'd like to talk to you for a moment." I nodded. "Go ahead." She took a shaky breath. "Claire, I know Ryan made terrible mistakes, but he's already been punished. Could you?" She paused, searching for words. "Could you withdraw the charges regarding his overseas assets?" So that was why she had come. "Auntie," I said gently, "that money belongs to the company. It's not his personal property." "I know," she said, her eyes glistening, "but that's all he has left, his last way out. Claire, you two had 3 years together. For the sake of that time, can't you show a little mercy? Give him a chance to live." I looked at her worn, sorrowful face, and for a moment my heart softened, but only for a moment. "Auntie," I said quietly, "I understand your concern as a mother. But principles are principles. I can't make any concessions on this matter." Her tone suddenly sharpened. "Why, Claire? You already control the entire company. You've taken everything from him. Do you really need to push him to the edge?" "Push him to the edge?" I repeated, still calm. "Auntie, I never wanted to destroy him. I'm only taking back what rightfully belongs to me. But you have to understand, if Ryan had chosen honesty, if he had faced me with the truth instead of lying, things wouldn't have ended this way. His decisions led him here, not mine." Mrs. Thompson fell silent for a long time before whispering, "Claire, please, for the sake of the fact that we were once family." "Once family?" I let out a bitter smile. "Auntie, we'll never be family again." "Why not?" she asked, her voice trembling, eyes full of disbelief. "You two can still start over. Ryan truly regrets everything." "There are some mistakes," I said quietly, "that can never be forgiven." I looked her straight in the eye. "Tell me, Auntie, if the woman your son cheated with were your own daughter, would you still be saying these words to me?" She froze, visibly shaken by my question. "Claire, I stood up. "Auntie, I understand your instinct to protect your son, but please try to understand my feelings too. I'm not a saint. I have no obligation to forgive the person who hurt me. And I won't abandon my principles for something as fragile as what used to be love." Mrs. Thompson's eyes filled with both grief and anger. "You've changed, Claire," she said bitterly. "Yes," I nodded. "I have. I've learned how to protect myself, how to live for myself. That's not weakness, that's growth." She rose to her feet. "I hope you won't regret your decision today." "I won't," I said firmly. After walking her out, I returned to my office and sat down, gazing out the window at the glowing city lights. The world outside carried on, bright and alive. I thought back to 3 years ago when Ryan and I had started this company together, full of passion and dreams. Back then, we once believed we could hold hands and walk together for the rest of our lives. But now I understand, some people are only meant to pass through your life. They come to teach you something, and then they leave. And you have to learn how to keep walking alone. That evening, when I got home, I received a call from Linda Wang. "Claire, the court just released an update," she said. "Ryan Thompson's overseas assets have been officially frozen and are being prepared for repatriation." "That's good news," I replied. "Thank you." "There's nothing to thank me for," she said warmly. "This is what you deserve." After a pause, her tone shifted slightly. "Actually, there's something else I need to tell you." "What is it?" "Ryan filed an appeal." I froze for a second. "An appeal?" "Yes. His lawyer claims the sentence was too harsh and is requesting a reduction. Will that affect anything?" I asked. "Not much," Linda reassured me. "The evidence is solid. His chances of success are very low. Don't worry about it." After hanging up, I thought back to Mrs. Thompson's words. Clearly, neither she nor her son was ready to accept reality. But none of that mattered anymore. What mattered was that I had finally found myself again. 2 months later, Ryan's appeal was rejected. The original sentence was upheld, and all of his overseas assets were successfully recovered. With that, the legal battle was over. Under my leadership, the company continued to grow stronger. Our performance climbed steadily, and my employees were once again full of energy and confidence about the future. I too began to rediscover joy in my work. One morning, as I was reviewing documents in my office, my assistant Lily walked in. "Miss Lewis, there's a gentleman outside asking to see you." "What kind of gentleman?" I asked. "He said his name is Ethan Jiang. He's from an investment firm." The name sounded familiar. "All right, let him in." Moments later, a man in his mid-30s stepped into my office. He wore a sharp, tailored suit. His demeanor was calm and professional, his features refined, and his presence quietly confident. "Good morning, Miss Lewis," he said with a polite smile, extending his hand. "I'm Ethan Jiang." I shook it. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Jiang. Please, have a seat." "Thank you." He sat across from me. "Ms. Lewis, I came today to discuss a potential partnership opportunity." "Oh," I asked. "What kind of project?" "Our firm is preparing to launch a new investment fund focused on technology innovation. Your company has a strong reputation in this field, and we'd like to explore a collaboration." I listened carefully as he outlined his proposal. It was indeed an attractive opportunity. "Mr. Jian," I said thoughtfully, "your proposal is very interesting, but I'll need some time to consider it." "Of course," he said, smiling. "A partnership like this deserves careful thought. Still, I'd love to continue the conversation. If you're available tonight, perhaps we could have dinner and discuss it in more detail?" I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "All right." That evening, we met at an upscale restaurant where Ethan had already reserved a private room. The atmosphere was elegant and quiet. "Miss Lewis, what kind of food do you like?" he asked courteously. "I'm not picky," I said. He ordered several dishes, all surprisingly suited to my taste. Throughout dinner, we talked about the industry, new technologies, and investment trends. I realized quickly that Ethan had a deep understanding of the market. His insights were sharp, his analysis clear and practical. "Miss Lewis," he said after a while, lifting his glass, "I really admire your capabilities. Running a company this successfully, especially as a woman, isn't easy." "Thank you," I said, clinking my glass with his. "Especially after everything you've been through," he added, his tone gentle. "To stay so composed and strong, that's truly admirable." I paused, slightly surprised. "You know about what happened?" He gave a small smile. "In the business world, it's hard to keep things like that secret. But for what it's worth, I think you handled it exactly right." "Really?" I asked softly. "Of course," he said firmly. "When faced with betrayal, you have to respond decisively. Forgiveness isn't always a virtue. Sometimes it's a form of weakness, even irresponsibility toward yourself." His words caught me off guard. Most people had called me cold, heartless even. Very few had ever said they agreed with how I handled things. "Your perspective is unique, Mr. Jiang." He smiled faintly, though there was a shadow in his eyes. "That's because I've been through something similar. My ex-wife cheated on me," he said quietly. "Back then, I chose to forgive her. And the result? She only hurt me worse. In the end, we divorced. From that experience, I learned one important truth. Forgiving a betrayer is the same as betraying yourself. As I looked at Ethan, a quiet sense of empathy stirred within me. That's why, he continued, when I heard about what happened to you, I truly admired your courage. Not everyone has the strength to stand up and fight for themselves. That dinner was unexpectedly pleasant. We talked for hours, not only about business but also about life, dreams, and the lessons we'd both learned from the past. I realized that Ethan Jang was not only intelligent and composed but also someone with real depth, a man who had lived, fallen, and grown. Ms. Lewis, he said as we left the restaurant, it was a pleasure talking with you tonight. He walked me to the parking lot. I hope our companies can work well together. I hope so too, I said, extending my hand. Thank you for dinner, Mr. Said Jung. He smiled. No, thank you. As we shook hands, his gaze softened. Claire, if you don't mind, maybe we can be friends outside of work? Of course, I said, smiling. I'd like that. On the drive home, his words echoed in my mind. You have the courage to fight for yourself. He was right. These past few months I had been fighting for my dignity, for my principles, and for my future. The process had been painful, but the outcome was worth it. I had found myself again, and with that, I had found direction for my life. Most importantly, I had learned how to love myself. Before you can love someone else, you have to love yourself first. That was the most valuable lesson this entire experience had taught me. A month later, my company officially entered a partnership with Ethan's investment firm. The new technology fund launched smoothly, and the projects we backed together started generating promising returns. Throughout this collaboration, Ethan and I became close friends. He was not only a reliable business partner, but also someone thoughtful and considerate, someone I trusted. One afternoon, while we were discussing a new project proposal, he suddenly looked at me and asked, Claire, have you ever thought about starting a new relationship? I froze for a second. Why do you ask? He smiled gently. Because I think you've completely moved on from the past. You seem happier now, calmer, more at peace. Maybe it's time to think about your own happiness again. I'm happy now, I said with a light laugh. My work is fulfilling, my life is stable, what more could I ask for? But life isn't just about work, he said seriously. You're still young, you deserve to experience love again. And what about you? I asked. Haven't you thought about starting over too? I have, he admitted, his eyes meeting mine. In fact, I think I'm waiting for the right person, or maybe just waiting for her to give me a chance. His words made my heart tremble slightly. Ethan, I started, but he interrupted me softly. Claire, I know maybe this isn't the best time to say it, but I have to be honest, over these past months, I've realized something. You're the person I've been waiting for. I looked at him, emotions swirling inside me, surprise, confusion, and something warmer I couldn't quite name. Ethan, You don't have to answer now, he said gently. I just want you to know that there's someone who truly cares about you, who supports you quietly. If one day you're ready to give me a chance, I'll treasure it. And if you're not, we'll still be friends. Nothing will change. His sincerity touched me deeply. Ethan, I said softly, thank you. He smiled faintly. You don't need to thank me, I meant every word. That night, as I sat alone in my apartment, I thought about everything. Ethan Jang was an exceptional man, successful, kind, responsible. But most importantly, he understood me, who truly supports and respects me. Compared to Ryan Thompson, they were two completely different men. Ryan valued my money and abilities. Ethan Jang valued me, who I was as a person. But was I truly ready to start a new relationship? I wasn't sure. To say I wasn't afraid would be a lie. After going through betrayal, it's hard to trust anyone completely again. Yet, if I let fear stop me from opening my heart, I knew I would never find real happiness. A week later, I sent Ethan a message. If your invitation still stands, I think I'd like to give it a try. He replied almost instantly, of course it still stands, and it always will. 6 months later, Ethan and I officially started dating. He was the most considerate man I had ever known, never intrusive, never controlling, but always there when I needed him. We traveled together, worked side by side, and made plans for the future. The feeling was entirely different from before. When I had been with Ryan, I was always the one giving, enduring, and sacrificing. With Ethan, I finally understood what it meant to be equals. to have respect, companionship, and peace. That was what true love really was. A year later, we got engaged. At our engagement party, I met many old friends. Everyone congratulated me, and they all said the same thing, that Ethan was a wonderful choice. As I raised my glass to make a toast, I thought about myself from a year ago. The woman who had just survived the deepest betrayal of her life, broken and exhausted, who once believed she would never trust love again. But life had proven me wrong. True love does exist. It isn't about possession or control or using someone for your own gain. It's about understanding, respect, and the courage to lift each other up. Claire, what are you thinking about? Ethan asked softly as he came up behind me, wrapping an arm around my waist. I was just thinking how lucky I am to have met you, I said, leaning into him. He smiled and pressed a gentle kiss to my forehead. I'm the lucky one. Meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me. We'll be happy, won't we? I whispered. I know we will, he said with quiet certainty. I turned toward our guests, lifted my glass, and spoke from my heart. Thank you all for being here tonight. Life is full of challenges, and we all stumble at some point. But if we stay true to ourselves and hold on to our principles, we'll eventually meet the right person. I wish each of you the happiness you deserve. The room erupted in warm applause. Ethan took my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine. 2 years after our engagement, we were married, in a simple yet beautiful ceremony at a seaside resort. There were no extravagant decorations like the wedding I once dreamed of with Ryan, no golden invitations or high-profile guests, just the people who truly mattered, those who had witnessed my journey from darkness back into light. As the ocean breeze brushed against us, Ethan held my hand and whispered, "You are the greatest gift of my life." In that moment, I knew I had made the right choice. Love wasn't a battle to win or a prize to claim. It was peace, the kind that comes when you finally find the person meant to walk beside you. Under my leadership, our company continued to thrive, expanding into international markets and partnering with major tech corporations. The company's valuation soon surpassed $800 million. I was no longer the fragile woman I once was. I had become a leader admired by the media, often called Claire Lewis, the woman who rose from the ashes. But behind all that success, there was still a quiet corner of my heart, a place that watched from afar as karma found its way to those who had betrayed me. One rainy afternoon, my assistant Lily entered my office carrying a folder. "Miss Lewis, I've been monitoring them as you requested. This is the latest update on Ryan Thompson and Emily White." I flipped open the file, a faint, cold smile forming on my lips. After 3 years of probation, Ryan had tried to start his own business with what little money he had left. But nothing went well. His first project collapsed due to lack of funding. The second one failed after his partner scammed him, taking everything. Now, he was working as an employee. As a salesman for a small company, earning barely enough to get by. His monthly salary was only a few $1,000s, and he lived in a cramped, rented apartment on the edge of the city. His mother, Mrs. Thompson, had sold their old family home to pay off his debts. She now lived alone in a nursing home. I remembered once receiving a call from her, her voice trembling as she begged me to forgive him and offer some help. But I only replied coldly, "Ma'am, karma isn't something I created. It's something Ryan brought upon himself." As for Emily White, she had left the city after everything fell apart and tried to start over in another state. At first, she found a job as an assistant at a small company, but when her past was exposed, the photos, the rumors about her being the other woman who destroyed someone's relationship, everything spread online like wildfire. She was fired again and again, no matter where she went. Eventually, she had no choice but to work as a waitress in a local diner. I later learned she'd tried to contact Ryan, but he had blocked her number. Now she lived alone, drowning in credit card debt. Her old habit of reckless spending dragging her deeper every month. One anonymous source even told me she had once tried to take her own life, though she was saved in time. I never interfered in any of this. I didn't need to. Fate was already doing what it was meant to do. And yet, when I read those reports, I couldn't deny the strange satisfaction that rose within me. It wasn't cruelty, it was justice. The quiet, inevitable justice of life itself. Suddenly my phone rang. A strange number flashed on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. Claire, it's me, Ryan. His voice trembled. I stayed silent for a few seconds before letting out a small, cold laugh. Why are you calling me? Looking for a job? Claire, please, I was wrong, he said, his tone desperate. I know I made terrible mistakes, but I regret everything. Please, just give me one more chance. I'll do anything. I can start from the bottom, even as a regular employee in your company. Just, please. A laugh escaped me, sharp and bitter. Ryan Thompson, do you honestly think you have any worth left? You've already lost your money, your reputation, and even your dignity. And me? I have all of it now. You want to come back? What, so you can use me again? Never. I hung up, and as the line went dead, I felt a deep calm settle inside me. Not anger anymore, but finality. I called out to Lily. Keep monitoring them, I said quietly, but don't interfere. Let life teach them its own lessons. Because life isn't a fairy tale. The wicked aren't punished the next day, and the good don't always win right away. But life is fair, in its own time and in its own way. The end.